for Alderney, the island of Alderney, and in particular fishing the breakwall at Alderney. So I've got you a bit of 80s music in the background there. So here we are. This is Guernsey down here. This is Alderney. Zoom out a little bit, and obviously here we have the UK, and here we have France, and in particular we're interested in Alderney. I have fished it. I've been here years ago. We went on a boat. We went across from Weymouth and we fished on the marks around Alderney, the Casquette Reefs, which is this one here, some banks just off here. And we fished for big tope, big turbot, some cod on the wrecks out here. But this video in particular is solely focused on fishing like the island, and in particular we're just going to focus on the breakwall, because the breakwall gives you good access to deep water for all the species. Easy access. You can stay in that. You can stay close by next to Harbour here. There's some pubs and bed and breakfasts and hostels and hotels and all sorts there. Good places to get some food. And obviously, if you're there on holiday, you can explore the island. But in particular, this video is just focused on this long arm here, this breakwall, which gives you towards the end. Can give you some really, at high tide, can give you some quite deep water. Record conger eel off this wall here is, I'm just going to, I think the music's okay. So that won't drown my voice out. But you can fish the inside of the harbour here for mullet. Okay, you can fish in this small area here in this harbour. Really, it's a case of sighting a few fish and then going for them. And if you're going after mullet, you want relatively sort of small hooks, like freshwater hooks, size 10, 12, 14, something like that, size 8, something like that. And yeah, mullet, you could try bits of ragworm, you could try bread, you could try cheese, you could try maggots, you could try raw steak, thinly cut. So you just want to experiment with little bits and pieces. But you want some little, real thin fluorocarbon as well, and just float tackle. And you can chuck in a little bit of chum, a little bit of ground bait, some stuff floating on the surface. So anyway, along this seawall here, you're looking at trying to catch some sea bream on some small hooks. There'll be flatfish on these bits of sand here. There'll be flatfish. So you want to try and, there might be a tackle shop in town where you can sort of just pick their brains a little bit on precisely where they're fishing, where there's patches of ground if you're only there for a few days. But if you're there for a while, you can sort of focus on where you want to go. Now, with regards to getting to the island, there is some flights from Southampton, I think, and Bournemouth at certain times of the year in the summertime, and it's Ayugi Airways or something like that. And if you book way in ahead of time, you can get it a lot cheaper. If you go on their website now, you're looking at 50 quid. I think you have to book a few months in advance. So that's how it works with smaller airlines, any airline really. You book ahead to get some better times and avoid peak seasons. There's all sorts of little deals. Another way to get across, you can bring your car across as well. There is a cargo ferry which leaves from Poole. And then night crossings, and you can get your car on there, you can get a cabin, there's all sorts of things you can try there. And in this video I will leave a telephone number for that contact on one of the slides. So that is access, time of year to go. Obviously it's going to be a lot more pleasant. A trip like this to Alderney is going to be a lot better when the weather's good. To try and get the weather good is a bit hit and miss. Usually, you say, if you haven't got any flights involved and things like that, you usually head off when the weather's good. Do you know what I'm saying? But like this, you'd have to book it in advance. So it really is a case of Russian roulette with that and the weather. But you want some good weather to get the best out of this. When I was here, had small amount of good weather, and quite a lot of rain. But we were out in a boat, and it didn't really matter, and we had quite good cover on the boat anyway. So anyways, it's quite a long walk to the end. Like I say, night time is probably best for a big conger. Right at the end of this wall here, all breakwalls are the same. For some reason, at the end of the wall, you do get some better fish. Now, there's some big tope being caught off here as well. And for the conger and the tope, you probably want almost the same rig. You're looking at like £100, £150 mono or wire trace with a relatively sort of heavy sort of lead. At the end of the wall here, I would imagine you would want a rotten bottom rig in case it gets caught in the bottom a bit, so that'll snap off. You want quite a large lead to sort of get it down there. And for me, you probably want sort of an 8, 9, 10 hook, and you want to be live baiting with some live pout or something like that for the tope and for the, in particular, the conger. So, yeah, and also you want to get yourself like a drop net. Buy yourself a drop net. Wouldn't be a lot of good for the conger or the tope. I think there's some steps here at the end of this wall, so you'll be able to get your fish close to that if it's a biggie. And I think it's just here. There's some steps here. Obviously, when you go into a place like this, it'd be wise to bring a life jacket, to have a life jacket on, sort of one of those inflatable ones. If you're going on your own, you definitely want that sort of gear. Remember, if you go in here, there's no one around to come to your rescue. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's probably best to fish with a mate. So off the end of this wall here, you could float fish for mackerel, you could float fish for pollock, you could float fish for bass, you can float fish for garfish. Garfish, similar rig to a mullet, small hook, probably sort of steak, small slivers of steak. They like the blood in the steak. You get the mackerel like that as well. Oily baits and things like that. Sand eel's a good bait for the turbot. If you want a ledger, you want to sort of chuck out an uptide rod or a beach caster with sort of strips of mackerel on it, or sand eel for like trying to entice a turbot or something like that. If you can get hold of some small live baits, some live sand eel, you could fish with those. You find that some of those sort of the better table fish will come at a certain period of the tide. That's where you want that real local expertise. The turbot and brill, they might sort of only feed for an hour, that sort of thing. Turn of the tide, that sort of area. You might find some particular around the bend of this breakwall, the tide, you might be able to see the tide really roaring past. So you might need some heavy leads to hold bottom. It might be that you'll have to come round in this area here, to get away from the tide. So a big conger, you're looking all the way around this wall here, this outer wall here, this area here, and you can literally just drop it right down for a conger. I say nighttime best, but it's usually a tide thing. I'd imagine the last few hours of the incoming tide would be good for a good conger. When there's plenty of sort of mackerel and different fish about, they become active, and they'll live right around the bottom here, around these rocks. It's quite deep here as well. A big tope here as well. So yeah, all different species here: red mullet, John Dory, tope, conger, pout, dogfish, bullhuss. You get the bullhuss on the mackerel, the garfish, pollock, bass, live bait for bass, and chuck plugs off there for bass. You may even you could even probably run into some sort of a blue shark or a paw beagle if you were fishing for them, maybe. But most likely a tope. You get a tope shark for sure. So I'm just trying to think. Bream. If you're fishing for bream, you generally want sort of smaller hooks, match hooks, number 2, Gazanian number 2 hooks. And like I say, it's a bit of a walk, but you might find that the information is that they're catching the bream midway down the wall, this side of the wall, or getting the mullet in the harbour here, getting some bigger fish in the harbour. With the mullet, and like any fish really, you want some nice good condition, you want to be able to sight them. But this whole area is shrouded in history. You know, this wall here protects the bay. This has been busted up a few times by the storms in the 1800s. It's been visited by kings and queens over the years. The Nazis invaded it. The island during World War II, the island evacuated because the Nazis had invaded France, and the Nazis lived here for 4 years, and they used Russian prisoners or any prisoners they could get hold of to help build all the forts and all the all those sort of things. And so the island is surrounded with areas where you could sort of potentially fish. I mean, obviously, if the wind's coming from the north, you can fish, the inside of the harbour wall. On a real big storms, as you can see in some of the photos, the sea will really crash over there, and it would be no good for fishing. Obviously, you just couldn't do it. Like I say, weather dependent on how well you get on here. And obviously, if the wind's coming the other way, you can fish the other side. Although it's a bit higher where the rail runs over there. Like I say, I was here in about 2001, and that was a boat fishing trip. But I have seen a few videos of this, and they do an Alderney sea angling festival, which is primarily land based. I think they do go out in a boat a bit, and would be worth going just to attend that festival with some of those anglers, because those anglers, as you can see from some of the photographs, the fish are just absolutely amazing. But local knowledge just proves what they know exactly what rigs, what bait. To catch those fish. But if you go in there as a newbie, you'd still do quite well. Like I say, if you're just doing the basics well, and you're fishing the right baits, and you're there for a few days, you pick off some really good fish. I'm probably going to be going there next summer, I would imagine, for a trip, just to fish off this wall. If you've got a pot, you could lay a pot down here and pick up some crays, lobsters, whatever you want to call them, some brown crabs in there. You'd probably run into a big stary smoothhound here as well. I think that they've had fish up to £14 off this wall here, like they do in other parts of the UK. There's another land-based spot along here. I'm just trying to see if I can see it. There's the airport there. You probably hire a car as well for a few days if you needed a car. Not sure where it is. It's on one of these headlands here. Anyway, you'd fish a side associated with, getting yourself out of the wind. Be lots of crabs to collect, hardback crabs, small hardback crabs to collect around the rocks here. And the wrasse fishing is really, really good. Potentially really, really good. And just a float fish with a hardback crab underneath will do the business, and that's pretty much it really. If you want to go on a charter boats from Weymouth will take you here. There's a couple of boats from Poole, they specialise in it as well, and you can have a better chance of getting a bigger flatfish, i.e. like a turbot or a brill, that way, and you'll get some cod on the way back. So again, this wall here for conger is the biggest. I think it's about £61, which is a real monster, a land-based one. So it'd be a good place to go for a conger. You'd probably quite easily pick up a £40 conger. And years ago, that used to be the British Conger Club benchmark, £40. It used to be £50, then they brought it down to £40. £40 is a good conger. And a 61 that's the sort of thing would be a good fish off a boat. A charter skipper may specialise in big congers as well if you come over on the Alderney trip. Like I say, loads of hotels in here, plenty of people around in the summer months, lots of yachties going between the UK mainland and here in the pubs. So you want to make sure you've got some accommodation sorted. Like I say, you can fly over. There is a ferry, so possibly you could get to Alderney from Guernsey on the Condor ferry. So whether you want to fly to Guernsey and then fly to Alderney, and then cruise to Alderney for a day or two, and then go back. If you're in Guernsey for like a week or 10 days, just want to nip to Alderney to have a look, have a little wander around. And that's pretty much it. This is the casquettes out here, and that's pretty much Alderney.